Welcome to this channel. So far, we have covered part 0, part 1, part 2. In today's session, we will cover part 3. In this session, we will create Flask REST API. I have already written the code for the Flask REST API so that we can save our some time, but I'll give you a complete explanation of this code. So let's understand Flask first. So, what is Flask? Flask is a framework that is being used for web server development. If I explain it in a simple word, when we build any website mainly has two part. First part is the backend, and second part is front end. So we use Flask mostly for the backend development, and we also use Flask for REST API development as well. So let's understand what is the REST API and what is API. Okay, so let's understand the API first. So API is application interface program, or you can say API is a set of code that is being used for application development. For an example, you can see this is the graph API for the Facebook. LinkedIn also has API. So here you can say LinkedIn API product. So most of the organization create set of code so that any user can access their data after the authentication, and they can build any sort of application. So so basically API is a set of code that we use to connect to the database or to the data source to build our an application. The next part is REST. So REST basically a set of rules that developer uses to develop an application. Next is request. A request is method that is being used to handle HTTP request. Next is JSONify. JSONify convert the dictionary into a JSON format. So so basically what happened whenever we transfer the data from client to server or server to client, or when we are transferring the data through the REST API, then we have to use the JSON to transfer the data. There is other method, other way of other way of data transfer is also available, but most popular is the JSON format. Okay, and next is the open AI response. This function I have created, and I have called this function from this module. So here you can see this is the module and this is the function that I have called into app.py. Here you can see this is the OpenAI library, and this is the .en and .env library. .env library is used to read the data from .env file. So here you can see I have created .env file here. So you just need to create a file and just give a name .env and put your credentials there, and you have to put the credentials in this way. Okay, don't worry about this API key, I will change after completing this session. Okay, so I here you can see this is my function, and I have called this function in app.py. Here I'm creating the instance of Flask API. In this line, this is the basically a route, or you can say endpoint. And in the Python term, these are the decorators. So in Python, we use at to denote, use at basically for the decorators. So decorators basically extend the features of the function. So here you can see this is the our function, and this app.route will add, this decorator will add additional feature into this home function. So whenever user will pass this endpoint in the browser, then Flask will by default call this function and then it will give the response. Same thing is happening here, but we are here using the post method. If you don't mention anything, that means by default using the get method. So here is the get method we are using because we have not mentioned anything. But in the case of the post request, you have to mention the post. Okay, so here you can see we whenever this endpoint get called through the browser, and when post request happen, then with that we request that http request data we collect through this method into this variable. And then we are basically in this set of code, basically we are checking whether this question what is available in this state in this and data variable or not. If no, then we it will give the this response. If it is available, then question will be get saved here, and this question we are passing into the upper our OpenAI response function, and this function is basically our Azure OpenAI code, uh, Azure OpenAI code, and basically we are passing the question to the Azure OpenAI so that we can get the response, and we are getting the final response here. And after that, again, we creating this dictionary and converting into the JSON file, and then then user will get the response. So let run this code. Okay, so I executed the Python Flask code. Okay, and now I'm going to open this URL. Okay, so I'm going to open that URL. Okay, so here you can see I just entered the root endpoint, and we are getting the response. And in the ask at endpoint, we have to do the post request. So post request we will do through the postman. Let's see how to make the post request. Okay, now you can see this is my postman, and we will perform the post request through the postman. Okay, and this is the main URL, and we have to enter the endpoint. Our endpoint name is ask, and we want to make a post request. Okay, and then we have to make the post request through the uh, in JSON format. Okay, so here I am selected the JSON, and now I will pass the data in JSON format. So this is the question. Okay, let me mention what is the capital of India. Okay, okay, so what will happen the moment we'll send the post request. Okay, then function will get called that we have mentioned under the ask route, and that then Azure OpenAI function that we have created, we pass this question into that function, and then we will get the response from Azure OpenAI. Okay, so let okay, so now you can see we get this response, and this response is coming from the Azure OpenAI, because in this route we have called our Azure OpenAI function, and we are passing this question in passing to Azure OpenAI, and we are getting the response final response. Okay, so this is the Flask REST API, and after this we will deploy it on Azure platform. After the deployment, we will get the new URL, and that so as of now everything is happening in local environment, right? But after the deployment we can access the our API from any location, from the any browser, from the any system. Okay, so in the next session we will see how to deploy on Azure platform, and after that in the final recording we will integrate with the Copilot Studio. Thank you.